I think it's going to make our life a bit easy, because this really requires the quorum, which we have now. I'm worried that as members are traveling, we might lose some quorum along the way. So I was hoping that we can just finalize the report and then take the MEC afterwards with of course, the presentation on the adjustment estimates. We've got a mover, colleagues. I'm not sure if we can get a second. Anyone who can second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, honorable members. Can we then just start? You are all welcome into the meeting. So the agenda is still the same. It's just that we've swapped the items. Thank you so much for that. I hope and trust that all honorable members who have traveled, they've traveled well. I've apologized, honorable members, because of the funeral at home that is happening. So I've got a bereavement. So I could not then leave. My apologies for that. But I've requested Honorable Madlopa to stand on my behalf in the hearing, during the public hearing in the community there. Then I'm not sure. I take it that all of us have read the report. I think it was given to us a day before. Can I get an indication if there are any amendments? I take it as read. If there are any amendments or any issues colleagues that might have, or if they are happy with the report, if it can be adopted as our report. Honorable members, we are now on the item on the report, our own finance report committee's report on, and the resolution on the mid-year budget performance hearings that we've just had. I take it that members have had an opportunity to go through it. Yes, Honorable Madlopa.
Thanks, Honorable Chair. I did go through the reports, and it reflects our discussions, because all the issues like issue of under expenditure and over expenditure and budgeting wrongly for COE is raised on the matter, and also the estimated over expenditure, I see it's reflecting as it was discussed. I propose that we accept the report, Honorable Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Madlopa. Any other contributions, colleagues? Yes, you can go ahead, Honorable
Chairperson.
Yes.
I'm not audible.
Well, you are very audible. We can hear you very well.
Are you giving me the platform, Chair?
Yes.
Okay, Chairperson. Yeah, I have also. Stop your volume. I've also went through the report, Chairperson, and yes, it's a true reflection of what we have discussed and what we have agreed on in the committee. So it's correct. Everything has been captured correctly. So I don't have any problem with the report. So I want to second the adoption of the report by Honorable CQ. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dex. Any other contributions from any members? We do not want to exclude anyone, honorable members. Of course, it has been raised and seconded, but we do not want to exclude any view in this regard. All right, I take it then that the report has been duly adopted as it has been supported, honorable members. I hope all of us are in agreement with the report. Thank you so much. Because of that, colleagues, there is no issue. Then thank you so much. We can then proceed, colleagues, to the next item. So the report has been duly adopted unanimously by all of us. So it becomes our report. Thank you so much, honorable members. MEC, with your team, good morning. We apologize for just starting with our own housekeeping issues. We thought that this is very important because other members are traveling to Pongolo, so we understand as such. So that's why we said we must prioritize the report first. We apologize for that. I hope you will understand. But let's give it to you then, Honorable MEC, to make your remarks, and then the department to again do the presentation on the adjustment budget. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Chair. Good morning to you. Good morning to the members, and good morning to all the officials.
Sorry, MEC, my apologies. Honorable Tess, will you mute your gadget? Thank you so much. Sorry about that, Honorable MEC.
No problem. And good morning to the Treasury team. Chairperson, I'm not going to take a lot of your time. I have to go into a Provincial Executive Committee meeting shortly. So I'm sitting with the HOD because some of the issues that we're dealing with is around Treasury. You, the committee, will be delighted to know that the first part of this morning's session in the Provincial Executive is dealing with Itala and coming up with a solution. I've had discussions once again with the National Minister of Finance around Itala. So we have a proposal that I'll be putting to the Provincial Executive. And also, Chairperson, we'll be doing some financial training and capacitation with members of the Executive, their CFOs and their HODs around the cost-cutting measures and the PFMA regulations, so which should help us stabilize the fiscal situation in the province. As you know, and as I spoke yesterday, we need to be really strict and direct on this approach. So, Chair, with that, I'm not going to delay the meeting any further. I did do the presentation yesterday. I believe Tanya Stila will take us, or take your committee through the adjustments. With that, I'll hand back to you. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Tanya. You are welcome. If you can just unmute, we can't hear the sound. Yes.
Sorry, I was so excited that my camera was working for a change. Let me start again. Good morning, Chairperson, and to the honourable members of the Finance Portfolio Committee, to my MEC and HOD and colleagues. I will take you through the presentation. It covers to a large extent what our MEC covered in the speech yesterday, but it unpacks a little bit more of it in further detail. Where I will be guided by you, Chairperson, is when we get to the section where we have detailed all the environments that require legislature approval. We have detailed them in this presentation, but it is basically a copy and paste of the explanatory memorandum which we handed out yesterday. So once I get to that point, I'll just pause and ask you whether you want me to go through it in detail or not. I'll turn off my camera now and I'll share the presentation. Is the presentation visible and in slide mode?
Yes, very much loud and clear.
Okay, fantastic. So the first slide just unpacks the outline. So we're going to take you through an introduction, amendments made by National Treasury. We're going to explain to you the sources of the provincial cash resources that we use to allocate in this adjustment. We will explain where those provincial cash resources were allocated to. Then, as I indicated, quite a few slides cover every single environment that requires legislature approval, which we've also highlighted, though, besides in the explanatory memorandum, also in the adjustments estimate book that was handed out yesterday. For every environment that requires legislature approval, we have a grey shaded block in the chapter, and that explains in the specific section which environment requires legislature approval. As is the norm, we also in that book include any gifts, donations, and sponsorships which require legislature approval. So that's any gift, donation, or sponsorship of cash that exceeds 100,000 Rand. In this adjustments, though, there isn't a single item where departments have given a gift, donation, or sponsorship in excess of 100,000. So there's nothing to note there. And I'll end the presentation just to show you what the provincial budget looked like before the adjustments were done and what it looks like after the adjustments. So in the introduction, the National Minister tabled the National Adjustments Estimate as well as the MTBPS in Parliament on the 30th of October. The Treasury Regulation 6.6.3 requires provinces to table a provincial adjustments estimate in the legislature within 30 days of the national adjustments. And so the 26th of November, which was yesterday, falls in line with that. Section 31 of the PFMA just stipulates the circumstances under which a province may table an adjustment. We include the items under Section 31 here. So it's when we need to appropriate funds that have become available in the province. We can do so when there's unforeseeable and unavoidable expenditure recommended by the Provincial Executive Council. Any expenditure in terms of Section 25, which is in emergency situations, which we don't have in this instance, in this adjustment. Money to be appropriated for expenditure already announced by the MEC for Finance during the main budget. The adjustment also provides for where there's shifting of funds either between or within votes. There's also provision made for the utilization of savings under main division or a program within a vote to defray excess expenditure under another main division or program within the same vote, and that's governed by Section 43 of the PFMA. And then the adjustment also deals with the rollover of unspent funds from the preceding year. Section 43 of the PFMA, read with Treasury Regulation 6.3, determines that some environments can be approved by the accounting officer themselves. Some must be approved by Provincial Treasury. And then there's also those that require legislature approval. So as I've indicated, all those that require legislature approval are detailed in that explanatory memorandum that was handed out yesterday. And also highlighted in grey shading in the chapters. Just to highlight to the members which environments require legislature approval, it's any environment between programs that exceeds either 8% of the receiving or transferring programs budget. Also, the reduction of any amount that was specifically and exclusively allocated to a vote for a specific purpose. So where they want to reduce that, it requires your approval or the legislature's approval. Also, the reduction in a transfer to a specific institution that requires legislature approval, and also the reduction in capital to defray current expenditure. And as I indicated, also any gifts, donations, or sponsorships which exceed 100,000 Rand per case. So in terms of the amendments made by National Treasury, as our MEC indicated in his speech yesterday, National Treasury for the first time in many years is making no amendments to the provincial budget in this adjustment, with the exception of the rollover of unspent conditional grant funding. The National Minister in his MTBPS speech indicated that tax collection for the current year is expected to be 22.3% lower than what they'd estimated when the main budget was set. And that influences the decision to not provide funding to provinces. For the 2024 wage agreement at the beginning of the year, when we set the 24-25 main budget, National Treasury indicated to departments that they should budget for 4.4% wage increment or cost of living adjustment for all public servants. So many departments found this difficult to achieve just because of the fiscal consolidation budget cuts that we've had over the last few MTF periods. So some weren't able to budget fully for the 4.4%, and most couldn't do it fully. Some, very few couldn't at all. And then on top of that, the wage increment came in at a higher rate of 4.7%. So that's 0.3% higher than what National had indicated we should budget for. So there is significant pressure on the provincial budget, and some departments have undertaken environments in this adjustments estimate to move funding towards compensation of employees to make up the cost of this wage increment. But we calculated this pressure for the 2024 wage agreement for all votes to cost 4.5 billion rand. We have raised the difficulty of absorbing this cost from the provincial budget at various forums with National Treasury, but obviously National Treasury heard our story and understood our plight, but with the 22.3 billion revenue under collection, they were unable to assist provinces. So the only amendment that's being made by National Treasury in this adjustment is the approval of our conditional grant rollovers, and that's being done in terms of Section 22 of the Division of Revenue Act. We recorded an audited underspending of 263.7 million rand against our conditional grant budget at the end of 23-24, which is it's a very high rate of spending we've had, and even if we compare us to other provinces, we actually do quite well in terms of our conditional grant spending. And we spent 99% of the conditional grant budget last year. The only grant that was underspent was the Human Settlements Development Grant by 263.7 million rand. But we were fortunately able to prove that that amount was fully committed, and National Treasury then approved the rollover. So that money will be is allocated to Vote 8 Human Settlements in the current financial year to pay for the commitments from the prior year. Then in terms of our provincial cash resources, we then looked at what was available in our provincial coffers to assist with the additional funding requests we had received from various departments. And so there are three sources of funding that we identified. Excuse me. The first one relates to the underspending of various votes in the prior year. So where a department has underspent their budget in the prior year, they are required to pay that underspending back into the provincial bank account. So they did that. And we also over-collected our revenue in the prior year. So those two together provided us with 726.4 million rand. We also had budgeted for a contingency reserve in the current year, and that contingency reserve for 24-25 amounts to 236.4 million rand. And then during 24-25, some departments have collected unbudgeted revenue, and in some instances they had asked for that to be allocated back to them for specific purposes, which I'll take you through just now. And that's another amount of 30.2 million rand. So if we add up those three sources of funding, we had 993 million rand available from our provincial cash resources to allocate in this adjustment. This table shows exactly the same information, source 1, 2, and 3, and just in a table form, whereas the previous slide obviously gave it to you in a narrative form. And there you can see the values on the right-hand side tallying up to 993 billion rand. So in aggregate, though, departments and public entities had requested additional funding in year from Treasury in the amount of 5.8 billion rand. The largest share of that relates to the 2024 wage agreement. So departments had indicated that they had shortfalls in that regard. But in aggregate, then 5.8 billion was requested, of which about 4.5 billion, as I said earlier on, was the wage increment. But we only had 993 million rand to allocate towards these pressures. And so MinCombud and the Provincial Executive Council deliberated on these to determine how the funds should be allocated. And as always, the first chunk always has to go to the conditional grant rollover. We have no choice in funding that. That is determined by Section 22 of the Division of Revenue Act. So 263.7 million rand of the 993 million goes towards funding the Human Settlements Development Grant rollover. 72.3 million rand was allocated towards funding provincial equitable share rollovers. And I'll take you through the detail of this in a slide a bit later on. The next amount is 626.8 million that went to various provincial commitments and budget pressures. So some of those items that form part of the 5.8 billion I mentioned just now. And then 30.2 million was where departments had requested that funds they have collected into revenue this year be allocated back to them. And I'll show that to you in this slide. So we've color-coded it just to make it a bit easier to follow. The green row at the top is then the conditional grant rollover. 263.7 million rand was approved, is allocated to Vote 8 human settlements. The pink shaded rows relate to the provincial equitable share rollovers, and it's Vote 4, economic development, tourism and environmental affairs. They received 13.2 million. Vote 9, community safety and liaison, received 23.9 million rand. And Vote 11, COCTA, 35.1 million rand. So this is where they had underspent in the previous financial year. They could prove that these funds were committed, and so it's a rollover so that they can pay those commitments in the current financial year. The details of what the rollovers were for are both here and were detailed in MEC's speech yesterday. Then in terms of where the funds were allocated to, where departments had indicated pressures to us, Vote 1, Office of the Premier receives 75 million for the KZN Youth Empowerment Fund. They also received 10 million rand for transfer to the Zulu Royal House Trust. Quite a large chunk goes to the provincial legislature. First of all, the revenue over collection from the prior year is automatically returned to the legislature. It's in terms of FUMPLA. So they received 1.023 million, which was their revenue over collection in the prior year. The next two items relate to MPL's remuneration, and they are direct charges on the Provincial Revenue Fund. So we definitely had to fund those. So the MPL's exit packages for the MPLs who exited after the 2024 general elections, it's 28.5 million rand was allocated for that. And then also the MPLs received salary increases of 2.5% backdated to April 2023. And the amount allocated in that regard is just over 4 million rand. The legislature is currently rolling out a SAGE ERP system. We had already allocated 8 million to the legislature in the prior year for this, and in the current year they indicated they need 20 million to continue with the rollout, so they allocated that amount. They also requested 9 million for tools of trade for MPLs and staff, mainly to replace redundant computers. And it's 9 million they requested. We gave them that amount. They also requested new chairs for the main chamber and committee rooms. They requested 2 million, and that was the amount that was allocated. And also for IT infrastructure, they were given 6 million rand in line with their request. Vote 5, education, they indicated a shortfall of 95 million against the National School Nutrition Program, and that 95 million is allocated to them. For the Departments of Sport, Arts and Culture, they had received sponsorship funds into revenue in the prior year, but after last year's adjustments had happened. So this 355,000 rand was received last year, and they used it for the KZN Sport Awards that took place this year. COCTA receives 30 million rand for failed Eskom transformers. This is in line with a cabinet resolution. And then Public Works, we need to correct the baseline for municipal property rates. So in year, we always top up the allocation because we haven't yet had the fiscal space to correct the baseline. So they are allocated 345.795 million rand. The last blue-grey shaded block then is the allocation of funds where departments have collected revenue into their revenue in the current year and have asked us to allocate it back to them. So it's mainly human settlements. They collected 20.6 million rand from a variety of own revenue sources, and they are going to use it to offset their budget pressures in the current year. They were also allocated funding for disestablishing the KZN Housing Fund. This amount has been kept in the Provincial Revenue Fund for a few years, and they asked for it to be allocated to them in the steps they're taking to disestablish the KZN Housing Fund. And then COCTA had funds returned to them by one of the municipalities from a project that had been completed, and they are going to use that also towards their budget pressures. The next slide then really just puts that same information just into a graph. You can see that the largest share of the allocation goes to Vote 8 human settlements on the right-hand side, the big blue part of the pie, and that relates to the Human Settlements Development Grant. And then the other big part is that grey shaded pie piece that goes to Public Works for the property rates. Chair, I'm in your hands now whether you would like me to go through every single environment that requires legislature approval, or are you covered by it being explained in the explanatory memorandum? I'll take guidance from you.
Okay, no, I would really, even myself, want guidance from the honorable members, because I share this committee at the behest of the members. Members, I think you guide us, the details that have been given, you know, or you want us to go to each and every environment that have to be approved by the legislature. Please give us a guide in this regard. Or the just overall summary is enough. Honorable members. Well, I think I would think that the summary that you provide. Yes, Honorable CQ.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. We welcome the report that has been presented by Treasury, as well as the remarks of the Honorable MEC. But I think the way they have presented, it's clear, because also we do have a report, but the summary was indicating which those environments are going to be rolled over.
All right. No, thank you so much for that. Any takers, honorable members? Are we covered? I just want to be sure if all of us we are comfortable, we are covered. Or
we are covered.
We're covered. Thank you so much.
I'm covered.
Yes.
I am covered.
Yes, yes. No, thank you so much. We appreciate that. I take it that Tanya, that then there's no need for you to go into details.
Thank you, Chair. Then I'll stop. Oh, no, sorry. I'll share again, because then I'll just go to the last slide, which shows the budget after we've made those changes. Sorry, I was too quick to unshare.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, so that then is the last slide that I will take you through, and you'll see this is also, if you are looking to look at the detail behind this table, it is also in the adjustments estimate in the summary section. But what it really shows us is the main appropriation, which is what the budget was per vote when the main budget was set. So when we tabled the budget in July and it was passed in August by the House, and then the columns show any amendments that are being made. So all of them fall only in the rollover section and in the other adjustment section. And there you can see the amounts that were rolled over against EDIA, Human Settlements, Community Safety and Liaison, and COCTA. And then for all the votes we have indicated that they've received additional funding, you can see that in the other adjustments column. For vote 2, just to note for members is that they have an operational budget, and that falls against vote 2 provincial legislature in the second row of this table. So that's where you would see the 8 million that's being allocated to them. But for the members' remuneration, the additions we made there is found in the line just before the total. So that's the statutory payments. So the MPL's remuneration line was 95 million when we set the budget. We've added the 32.6 million relating to the exit packages and the 2.5% increase. So you'll find that against that line. And yeah, so we had a budget of 150.488 billion when we started the financial year. With these adjustments, it's increased to 151.481 billion. And that's all from me. Thank you, Chair.
No, thank you so much. It's quite clear. Can you just beam that last slide so that when we deliberate, and I think because that's what we need to have. Tanya, if you can beam this slide. Thank you so much. I think, honorable members, this is the summary of what I think, Tanya, you are saying that what will be voted in the legislature in terms of the appropriation in the adjusted would be the 960 million, 397,000. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Chair.
Okay. No, thank you so much. Of course, honourable members, is composed of those that are indicated in there. I think it's quite straightforward, honourable members. Thank you so much, Tanya. Thank you so much. We really appreciate. So here is the report, honourable members. The presentation. I think it's here in front of us. If there are any questions that members want to ask or any comments, it's open, honourable members. It's quite open for any takers, if there are any. Yes, Honourable Secu.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. No, I want to check. I heard that on the salaries of the MPs, there has been an addition of about 30 million for those that are exiting. I want to check whether is it for the 6th term or is just a provision if there is anybody that will be leaving the legislature. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you so much. Yes. Tanya?
Thanks, Chair. So it is for those that exited after the election. So it's the sixth administration. It is a value that was calculated by the legislature, I think, together with Alexander Forbes. And as far as I'm aware, I think those amounts have already also been paid to those members who have exited.
Yes. Oh, yes. No, thank you so much. I think you are quite right. It is quite clear in that regard. But thank you so much, CQ, about for that question. But I think it's quite clear. Thank you so much. All right, honourable members. Any other issues? Or we can just appreciate the presentation. If there is really none that honourable members. But is there any other thing that we need to do with this presentation at this point?
At this point, Chair, there's nothing, just members maybe to consult their caucuses, but I would also like to remind members that I'll create a link for the committee to meet tomorrow, maybe at 6 in the evening, just to adopt a report on this presentation, as well as confer a negotiating mandate on the division of Revenue Amendment Bill. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, no, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think then, honourable members, that will be it. We want to appreciate Mr. Tsili, the amount of work that you have done. The report that you provided was very extensive. Really, the additions were very, very, very limited that we could do. Thank you so much for the work that you did with your team, of course, with Martin One and everyone else. Honourable members, thank you so much. Then it means we will meet tomorrow in the legislature when we are then discussing all of the matters that are being discussed tomorrow. And then tomorrow in the later, as Mr. Kiri is indicating, we'll then meet again to deliberate on the report that will be presented. Of course, we would have then gone through our own, political parties for our mandate on this kind of report that we have to deal with. But I really want to appreciate honourable members that you are travelling, but you've taken time to really have a meeting this morning. We appreciate that, honourable members. Thank you so much. I can take it. If there is nothing else that the meeting, we can then duly close it officially. Unless if honourable MEC want to make any contributions before closing remarks.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you to the honourable members for their input. I think we'll meet tomorrow, and hopefully we'll have some positive debate on the adjustments budget and also on the midterms. And I just wish you and the committee safe travels up to Pongola for your hearings. Safe journey. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honourable MEC. We really appreciate it. Honourable members, travel safely. Thank you so much. The meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Chair.